That's Charles and Eddie. Would I lie to you? Well, sometimes. I got a wonderful book here. And when we get a new book in, we like to drop it on just... Oh, look at that. That's a substantial book. That is a substantial book. It's called Mother of Millennials. Mum is Catherine. Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
Nice to have you here. And the millennials are Sally and Harriet.
Hello.
Hello. How are you? Nice to see you. And all together. Rather than me kind of do a description of the book, Kath, tell me what the inspiration was, because I think it kind of came from you originally, didn't it?
It did. The inspiration was sort of recognising that neither of my two beautiful, well-educated daughters was following the path that we'd carefully laid out.
And that path would have been what? Doctors, lawyers?
Well, not necessarily. No, they didn't need to be sort of Governor of the Bank of England or rocket scientists, but just a good, steady job in a reliable, respectable firm, earning a decent salary.
Right.
You know? That was it. A good education, all the CV-enhancing activities that, that are really valuable and really important in modern day. All of those things, and a good job at the end of it, and financial independence by the age of 20-odd.
Yeah.
That's what I expected.
Fair enough. And what happened then?
None of that. None of that at all. Well, no, that's not true. Not none of it. The bit about the financial independence and leaving home by the age of, in the mid-20s, all of those things didn't come to pass in the way that we'd sort of expected. But
that's not necessarily down to you two, is it? Isn't that just down to circumstances and the world in which we live?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think I personally could have had the opportunity to continue in my initial career and build on it and get to a point where I was financially independent to move out, maybe even have purchased my own home at this point. But that societally normal path didn't suit me. The career choice I went down ended up causing me quite a lot of distress, and I realised it wasn't an environment I was able to stay in and maintain my happiness. So I had to make a choice.
Backed away from that, and then what did you do? So
I then felt a bit lost, and as a choice I think a lot of millennials make these days is I went travelling for 3 months the other side of the world, and it just removed all my stresses, allowed me to really figure out what I didn't want from work, and I decided I would try and make my own path when I got back home, back to Bristol, set up my own business, go self-employed, but that meant really removing all of my financial income, and fortunately, I had the ability to go back and live back at home. So never really had that on the plans, but I knew it was necessary.
But the actual going travelling, that cleared the air, that cleared your head, and it allowed you to think about what you were going to do next.
Yeah, and I was very in a fortunate financial position to begin with to allow that to happen, because travelling is expensive. But the freedom of what you can do every single day, you don't have many materials with you because you've got one backpack that you take in everywhere. You can just learn about a city, you can walk around in it, and you're all of those societally normal pressures, like what milestones you want to achieve at work. Do you have a good car? Do you have a nice house? And you're comparing yourself to your peers who are in the same position. All of that is stripped away, and you can just enjoy the scenery and sunshine.
Because you did this for 3 months, did you go with the intention? Did you go with the intention of thinking, right, I'm gonna leave all that behind me now. I'm gonna think about what I'm gonna do next whilst I'm off on my travels. Did you think that?
Yeah, that was my aim.
So you weren't just bumming around for a year?
No. I took a break. I had to take a break for my health. I couldn't. By the time I finished my last job, I couldn't go back to that work environment.
Too stressful.
Yeah. It wasn't good for me. So I removed that with the intention. I love working. I wanted to go away, find out what I could do, where I could find my passions in a healthy way, and go back to that. And I think I have done that. I never intended just to waste away in another country on a beach.
Right. So that's Harriet's story. And what about Sally?
Well, I had to drop out of school quite early, in sixth form, because of a lot of mental health problems. which was unfortunate because I'd always been quite a top student. My parents had always expected me to go straight to university and follow the life path that they'd set out, but that wasn't going to happen.
No.
So I've been spending the last few years sort of looking after my mental health rather than my academic gains and my career prospects. And that's sort of opened up new ideas and possibilities for me. I've been trying to follow more creative side of things these days, and that's really helped with my mental health.
So when the book came along, there are the two girls. Now, you know what their situation is. You know, one's at home because going through a mental health thing that so many young students are going through at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something we hear over and over and over again. Now, too much pressure, trying to funnel people in the wrong directions. And it's no good for our youth. So one's off travelling, one's recuperating. What were you doing, Kath?
Well, I was busy working full time.
Doing what?
I worked in IT. I was an IT consultant, and I've been in that line of business for 30 odd years, and it's hard work because you're away a lot of the time, working away. I'm working away in London and various other places, so you're not around a lot of the time. So it was really quite hard. And Harriet, I had no problem with Harriet. She was just off bumming around for a year, and she was, the expectation was she would come back and carry on working in fundraising, which is what she trained as. But obviously Sally's position was far more difficult, and it was very, very difficult to find something that would work for her career. There's no career guidance for people with mental health issues. It's so difficult because that they can't get up in the morning. It's not that she was being lazy. She literally couldn't function. And there were times that, she was almost comatose. So there's no way that people in that situation can go out to work.
No, that's not being about
and
lazy.
And they can't go back to education because someone as intelligent as Sally could barely do a simple sum.
Yeah.
She just couldn't concentrate because of the medication. So we need better ways of dealing with helping people in those situations, and not to consider them as sort of written off at the age of 16, 17 because they've dropped out of school, but to recognise that isn't the right path for a lot of people with mental health problems.
So given the situation of the three of you, how does that lead to this book?
So I think part of it was I wanted to find something that Sally could do as a career. And she'd always expressed an interest in writing. And rather than just say, right then, Sally, get on with it, go and learn how to write, I thought, well, let's write a book and let's do a bit of hands-on and let's learn about the whole publishing business.
Well, so you did think you'd carry it all the way through, write the book, publish it, get it out there, rather than let's just write a book and
not
as
really.
An exercise.
It started off as an exercise, but it then progressed. Initially it was just let's see how difficult it is to write a book. But as I was discussing the book with all my work colleagues, it became obvious that a lot of people my age group, 50s and over, really had no clue about the life of their millennial children. They didn't get all the sexual orientations that have sprung into existence. They didn't get their boomerang children who kept coming home and not moving out and getting a proper job or all of those things. They really didn't understand that. And I thought,
you didn't understand them. Did you understand, Mum?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think there's never been any weird and wonderful things that have happened, like top down. It's always come from us upwards, I think. You've just been had a lovely, stable childhood and household.
Yeah, I think we've helped Mum understand herself a little bit more as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Since Sally's mental illness and since starting writing this book, I've done so much research into the big issues of the day, and mental illness is definitely one of those. But it's no doubt it's changed my views, and I think the main thing it's made me realise is that adults teach their kids, parents teach their children, and you have expectations, and those expectations are passed down generation to generation. What I would say is we really need this flow back upwards of learning from our children, because they've made so much progress in a lot of the big issues of the day. They are far more we live in a far more sensitive and more inclusive society now than we did, and it's wrong for us to.
We can't keep up, Kath.
Well, we can't keep up.
We can't.
Absolutely.
We can't keep
but
up.
We should. It's important that we do.
Yeah, it is. We rely on our children to re-educate us about everything that's going on around you.
Absolutely.
Just in terms of the content of the book, and what's in there. Did you each take a chapter, or did you all write it together, or did you write bits of it each?
There is one. The girls have got one chapter each.
Yeah.
And I've written the rest. But a lot of the writing has been done around lunchtime at Wagamama's and various other places. So, we come together a lot. I mean, we live together most of the time.
And what do we find in there?
Oh, well.
Loads of stuff, I think. I think one thing that Mum hasn't mentioned, you asked why did the book come about, and they said, try and find something for Sally's career. But I think a big catalyst was when I rung up my mum from Fiji whilst I was travelling. I think it was on Christmas Day, and I just said, I can't go back into that office environment when I get home. And because that was everything my career and education had led me up to, I go and work in an office environment because I've built my educational profile. For me to say that to her was quite scary for both of us, because that was a completely uncharted path that we would, I would need her support in trying to find for myself. So